Today I have an SAT math tip and trick for you that deals with function tables like the one shown in question 2 from SAT practice test 5. So I'll use question 2 to illustrate my tip and trick here for these function tables. The question states that some values of the linear function f are shown in the table above. Which of the following defines f? So whenever I'm dealing with function tables like this, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look at things jumping from one variable in x to the next, and then also how it jumps the same way in f of x, right? So in this case, I see I go from 1 to 3, that's an increase of 2, and I see I go from 5 to 13, that's an increase of 8. So what I'm looking for here is I'm going to take a look at my answer choices when I'm dealing with these function tables, and I'm going to look at my slopes and my intercepts. In this case, since I'm asked to define f, if I can find that a through d, if any of them have the same intercept or the same slope, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to solve for the other. So in this case, we see that all of our slopes are different, and it's the same with all of our intercepts. Okay, now let's say that answer choice D, it said 5x plus 1. Then what I would do is I would solve for my slopes first. Okay, and here's why. By solving for my slope, if that did say 5x plus 1, I would be able to find my right answer without solving my intercept. Now let's say that my slope in part D just said 4x. Okay, and it was just plus 0 like it is now. Then what I would do is I'd solve for my intercept, because by solving for my intercept first, I can get my right answer without solving for my slope, right? So those are the big things there. Now, in this case, I'm going to solve for my slope just because I think it's easier to do in these types of problems. So what I see is I go from, and also if it had a 0 here, right? If it had 0 for x, it'd be giving me my intercept. So then I would look to solve for the intercept, but it's not. So in this case, I'm going to solve for my slope. So that's just one other thing. If it did have a 0 for an x value, that would be giving me my intercept. So then I would solve for the intercept. But in this case, it's going to be easier to solve for the slope. So what I'm going to do here is I see I go from 1 to 3. I know that's a change in x of 2. I know my slope is going to equal my rise over my run, or my change in y over my change in x. So my change in x, there's 2. I see I go up 8 from 5 to 13. So my slope's 8 over 2, which is going to equal 4x. So my answer there would be C. So the big things here is if you're dealing with a function table like this, always check and see if there's a 0 value for x. Because if there's a 0 value for x and it's linear, you can go ahead and find, or if there's a 0 value for x period, you can find an intercept, right? So then by finding that intercept, you could obviously find your answer choice pretty quickly. Unless there were two of the same intercept, then you have to go and find your slope. In this case, since there was no 0, I thought it easier to find my slope since all my slopes were different. So those are just things you can look for on these function tables in order to help you have to do less work, right? So hopefully that was helpful. If it was, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, have a great day.